does a team have a culture like a business has a culture? Because the one thing that we've noticed, and all of us had to learn to work remotely, and some of us hated it, and some of it loved us, and some people are still at home now. But what I've noticed is that you lose your company culture in Teams or in Zoom.
Yeah.
And that's why we're bringing back our people now, currently 2 days a week, soon 3 days a week. Does a sports team have a culture?
Definitely.
And would you have noticed that your culture gets diluted by being in a digital space as opposed to in real life?
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's why what we would do now, we call it alignment camp. So when it was COVID, we did that purely digital and online. But now, let's say, where in the past, we wouldn't have even gone to those players. We would now, let's say, fly over there, where normally we would have had a camp there. So the cost was getting everybody in. You have a camp in the UK. And what we will do now is I would go abroad and I would go and visit a player at his team. So I think from a cost point of view, we only spend on one flight, one stay, but I get to meet the players there and spend some time with them, have a meal with him, maybe with his family, to touch a little bit of base, because I think that's very important. But then I don't have to sit and have a 1 day or 2 day alignment camp with one player because he plays at Ulster. Then I go to Munster and there's 2 players there. Then I have a 2 day camp with them. Then I go to Toulouse, have a 2 day camp with them. Mm-hmm. I can still visit them, but spend a day there, spend a day there, spend a day there. So I spend in a week, in 7 days, I can literally visit 14 clubs. But then on 1 day, I can invite all of them digitally and have 1 2 day camp with them. So I think it's a lot more time effective. If you think if I had to visit 14 clubs times 2 days per camp, that's a whole month of camps. Where now I can go in 7 days, I can do 14 teams and 2 days of one alignment camp, getting everybody involved over Zoom. So you get a little bit of the contact, one-on-one, face-to-face, spend some time with the player, with his family, but then you just do the alignment camp online, digital. Yeah.
So Zoom is bad for business travel?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's bad for business travel. I think there's certain things, as Jacques says, you can't do a deal over Zoom. You probably can't cock someone out over Zoom.
No, you can't. You got to see the emotion. And I think that's the important thing. On Zoom, because a lot of coaching is emotion. If you invest in motion, you will get emotion. So if you get a player to defend his try line and you want him to defend the try line with his life, he's got to invest emotionally into that. Yeah. So and you only get emotion if you can give emotion as a coach, as a leader, as a whatever. You have to give emotion to get it. So and you can't do that with Zoom. You 100%.
Yeah, it's the same in leadership and business. It's also about emotional attachment to what you're responsible for, and you can't do that in Zoom either.
No.
Or Teams.
No.
But I think most probably it could be better for you because you're making your travel count. So value for money travel is a little bit better than what it was in the past.
And you spend less time away from home, I guess, as a result.
Question then is, you said you mentioned family time with the player and his family.
Yeah.
How important does that play in your bigger scheme of things? The family portion of the, let's call it, rugby business.
Massive. I think it differs from team to team, but in the Springboks side, the family is massive. And when we went to the 2019 World Cup, we were one of the teams that our wives and partners and kids were allowed within the environment. And even with the British and Irish Lions series, we actually, I think that was one of the successes of us. We got our families also to do quarantine, and they had to go to a hotel quarantine facility to get into our biosecure bubble. And then obviously within that environment, we had creches, we had barbers, we had a driving range. It sounds, but like a 10-meter area where you could hit a golf ball into a facility, just to get some of the frustrations out. So I think that's massive. And even you know, when sometimes, yes, you'll have a hard day of training and yes, things didn't go well and you're a little bit down, and then when you get back into the hotel and all the kids come running to their fathers and their hugs, and you know, immediately your mind's you were sulking a little bit, but immediately your whole mentality change, you know. And so no, for us it's big. I think there's challenges with that. So obviously ownership needs to get taken, because I think it can become loose, and but I must say we've got a very experienced group within our team, so they manage it quite well.
So looking forward, we've done backward. Looking forward, we're on the road to France 2023. And as the reigning champion, no doubt, which is fantastic. And I'm assuming quite a bit of pressure as the reigning champions, right? Can you give us some insight as to the team strategy used in 2019, I suppose? Is it the same or similar strategy that will be used in 2023? Can you share that? Or is that giving a little bit?
You can also use it to misinform our competitors, right?
No, I think...
Because that was quite defensive.
What?
The strategy in 2019.
Yeah, it was. I think what happened was when we took over in 2018, we had a very limited time. So we had to almost look and see, listen, what are the things that we through analysis thought will get us a win, and then we literally, because we had 18 months or less, not a normal 4-year cycle, we actually had to focus on those areas, because, and we just banked, listen, this, we believe this through analysis will get us a win in 2019. Going forward, I think on your point on pressure, I think pressure will always be there, but I think it's an important concept. Looking back at 2019, I think if we keep on looking back as a team, as a management, players, staff included, if we keep on looking back at 2019, I think it's almost your ego speaking. You know, you almost you want to revisit what you have achieved to make your own ego feel good. So I think as a group, we need to step off that as soon as possible. And then also looking forward, I think we shouldn't focus too much on the World Cup in France. We should. But I think when you focus too much on that, and if that becomes your primary goal, it's almost your pride talking. You know, Russia's won a World Cup, now Jacques won a World Cup, it's for Jacques, it's for my pride. I think the humble thing is to stay in the moment. So I think and I know it's a cliche and everybody say, listen, you've just got to stay in the moment. But I think for those two things, I think if you keep on looking back and refer back to 2019 and the World Cup, I think it's your ego. And I think if you go, listen guys, we obviously want to win the World Cup and we want to win it back to back, but if that becomes your primary focus, it's your pride, you know, and we must stay in the now. Our next thing is to play against Wales and to beat Wales. But then your point on strategy, I think if where we are, and I don't want to go back to 2019, but I think where we are currently as a team, we won the World Cup, we beat the British and Irish Lions. So I think if you look at our performance clock as a team, we're probably at the pinnacle at 12 o'clock. I think our challenge as a team is not to go in that fall from 1 to 6, you know, to the bottom side. And I think the two big reasons to stop that is if you stop being innovative. So without giving strategy away and stuff like that, I know we will go in that fall if we are not innovative, and if we get if we stagnate as a team, and also if we become arrogant, if we think we've got the plan to stay successful. You know, if you think about it, we number one in the world. The worst thing we can do is to know, listen, we've got the perfect plan. We know how to win. That's when teams will catch up. So I think in 2018 when we came in, we changed a lot. We changed our defense system. We changed the way we played. We changed the way we selected our squad to build a specific culture. So we were bold. I think the challenge now is to stay bold on one end, but also, obviously, if you're number one in the world, if you beat the British and Irish Lions, I think you are still doing some things right. So I think the challenge for us is to keep improving the things that we do well, and to just do it better, but without getting arrogant and say, listen, this is the only way. To almost find some innovative new ways of doing things better. So I think that's going to be, so without giving strategy away, I think from a mindset point of view, that's almost our challenge that we will have to, as a team, face, not to fall down that cliff from 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock.
And from the players that were in Japan, how many of them are still there for France? Is that the bulk of the team?
Bulk. So
they're not too old yet?
No, good question. I think if you look at our squad, so let's start. I'll answer that question by let's look back at history. If you look back at previous teams that won World Cups, their average age are between 27 and 28 of the squad. On one end, so quite experienced. And then if you look at test caps, how many test caps they've accumulated in that squad, it's about 1,100. There hasn't been a team that has won a World Cup with less than that. So, and it's not that it's impossible. Maybe the next team can do it.
Statistically more likely.
Statistically, yeah. So where are we? So that's the sweet spot. If you look back in history.
So let me guess, you're 27 and a half and you're 1,100.
No, we're 28 currently, so we'll go to the World Cup 29. So I think we will be at the top end. So between 28, 29, that's where teams have won. So I think we will be at the top end of that in terms of age. In terms of test matches experience in the squad, we will be there and thereabout in terms of probably similar to what New Zealand was when they defended their World Cup in 2015. They had an average experience test caps per player of just under 50. I think we will be there. The challenge for us, I think, being 49, being 29 at the top end of our age, is that players will not sacrifice it. And then as you get a little bit older and you get a little bit more experience in the team, you kind of get the understanding of what an honor it is to represent South Africa, and you will still sacrifice because it's this massive honor to be part of this. And then as you become a little bit older and more experienced, you get the sacrifice, you get the benefits. You know, you become a big player. You start building your own brand. People start paying you a little bit more money. You get appearances. You get a name. But you still sacrifice because yes, you are now providing for your family, which you never thought you would be able to do, and at a rate that you never thought I'll achieve. So you still sacrifice. But the problem, and I think we will be there and thereabout. But the problem is if you go that one step further, where you become entitled, where listen guys, we need to do this weekend, the PR activity, and then a guy who's got 100 test caps will go, listen, why must I do it, man? I've been here for 10 years, I've got over 100 test caps. Let the younger guys, the guys with 1 or 2 test caps. The moment you get that filtered in your team, that entitlement, then, and that will be our challenge. It won't be that the players aren't experienced and they don't know how to handle pressure situations. It's becoming entitled.
And talking about that, the ego and the entitlement, and do you believe that the fact that we've been victorious in France previously, will that play a role in the mentality, in our thinking going in to 2023?
I don't think so.
Or will it give us a little bit of, or does it not matter?
No, because I think there's only one player that played, if he gets selected, and that will be Frans Steyn, who played in that 2007 World Cup. So
was he 10 years old then?
He was 20. He's the youngest player actually that played in a World Cup final. So yeah, he'll be 35, 34, going into this World Cup. If he gets selected, but he will be the only guy that has been there before. I think the thing, a lot of our players that would have been in the World Cup, and they would have been probably a lot of them will go into their third World Cup. Some of them played in 2015, 2019, and now going into 2023. So I think that would help because they've been there before and they know what it's going to be about, because it's a different tournament. It's the pressure the moment you hit a knockout stages is tremendous. So that would help. But France, no. What will help on that is we got a lot of players playing in France. So they're used to the environment. That helped us a lot in 2019 when we went to Japan. We had about 8 players that played rugby in Japan. So it was nice when we got into Japan. They explained to us, listen, how do you conduct yourself on a train, because it's completely different than in South Africa. Listen, you're not allowed to walk on the street and eat. You buy your food, you sit inside. So small little things that actually helped us in managing ourselves in Japan was quite nice. We will probably get the same in France from the input we will get from players that played there.
Brilliant. Just one more thing from my side on 2023. Looking at the pool matches, we've got one, from a perception perspective, you have one big pool match against Ireland. They are Six Nations runners-up. They look like a strong contender. What are your thoughts on how you tackle the Irish, even though Scotland may be that really big pool match for you?
Yeah, look, we're in a tough pool. It's bizarre to think if you think of world rankings. In one pool, we've got the number 1 team in the world, we've got the number 4 team in the world, and we've got the number 7th team in the world, or 7th team in the world. So it's bizarre to think, listen, after the pool stages, either number 1, 4, 7 is not going to be in a quarterfinal, which is the top 8 teams. But listen, that's the draw. So yes, to come back to your question about how important it is, I think the nice thing for us, and that's why I mentioned we should stay in the now and not think about quarterfinals, semi-finals. We need to get out of our pool, and that's probably the biggest thing for us. And I think our first game against Scotland is going to be massive for us. If you beat Scotland, then you've got some leeway in that second or in the Irish Test match. But I think that's, even if we will probably go Scotland, then it's going to be Spain. I think their ranking currently is 15th in the world. Then it's Ireland, who's number 4 in the world, who's going to be massive. And then it's probably going to be Tonga. I think they're 16th in the world. They haven't qualified yet, so it's Asia Pacific 1. They're still busy with their qualifications. But I think, for us, it's going to be big just to get out of the pool. And then if you get out of the pool, your quarterfinal is going to be either New Zealand or it's going to be France. It's going to be a tough route for us to just get out of the pool first, and then you've got 2 of the big teams, and they're number 2 and 3 in the world that you're going to hit in the quarterfinal. So that's why I say.
Sounds like the final is going to be easy because everybody else is not, right?
You know, we're going to play in the final. Funny enough, it's probably going to be the team that we don't play in the quarterfinal. That's what I think. So we're going to play either New Zealand or France in the quarterfinal, and whichever one we don't play is probably, I think, going to end up playing in the final. So yeah. We will have to find ways, and that's a nice thing. If you look at the schedule we're playing this year, we've got quite a tough schedule, and I think that it's important for us to play big teams in the year before World Cup, so that you can get your answers, because we will have to be able to beat those 4 teams: Scotland, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand, and France. Because I think you're going to meet, if you want to win the World Cup, you're going to meet all 4 of them.
I mean, does South Africa still produce amazing talent in rugby at the moment?
Yeah. No, we do. Plenty. And that's, we're fortunate there. I think we've got a good school system. So we produce a lot of good rugby players, and I think that's probably why there's a big debate. Yes, all our best players are is playing abroad currently, and is it good for South African rugby? But for us, with all the youngsters coming through, so if you take 32 top players of South Africa and they go and play abroad, it opens up 32 spots for the younger players to come in. So for us, from a national point of view, it's great. I don't think it's always great for a fan because he wants to see that top 32 playing, and maybe that's the nice thing of the URC and the Premiership, and if we get into the Champions League, we would see those players. But if you think of a national coach now, those 32 players playing abroad and there's 32 youngsters now taking their spots playing in our local competition, you get 64 players to pick from, you know. So where if they didn't go, they would have blocked these guys for 4 years. So you actually get a much broader base. And like I say, the positive of COVID is we actually can keep our fingers on the pulse of those 32 playing abroad as well. So now there's a lot of good talent coming through, very good talent, yeah.
So in 2019, we were quite fortunate that I think all of Japan were behind South Africa apart from the Japanese game. Yes. So every game that I went to, it was amazing that how big the Japanese support base supported South Africa.
Yeah, I went to the Japan game.
How big is our travelling support base going to be for your team going to France?
No, massive. I must say that was probably, I would say, funny mentioning the Japan game, I think that was probably where we had the biggest contingency South Africans supporting us, was in that quarterfinal. And I mean, if you think back at that quarterfinal, yes, it was tight. I think we went in halftime 5-3. And only probably after 50 minutes we scored that long range maul try to give a little bit of scoreboard pressure and breathing space for us. Now it's going to be massive, and I think that's the nice thing of the France 2023 is the accessibility of fans. You know,
correct.
Japan was quite a travel, where France I think is going to be awesome, and I think even we have this massive, difficult route going into a semi-final and knockout stages. But I think if you look at where we play our test matches, I think the pool stages can actually be a lovely road trip. You know, if you think we will play Scotland and Marseille, which is in the French Riviera. You know, Aix-Provence is just up the road, nice wine area. You got Nice. You got Monaco just there, you got Cannes there, so you're there in the French Riviera, and then if you think the second game against Spain will be in Bordeaux.
Sounds like wine to me.
Great wine country. Then you can catch a train from Bordeaux over to playing within 6 days. You play Ireland in Paris. So, and then for the last game we come down to the south of France again before everything goes up for the knockout stages in Paris. So I think for me as a travelling fan, normally when you look at pool stages, there's maybe, if you think World Cup, it was South Africa, New Zealand. So that was a nice big game, and the other one was South Africa, Italy, and the other one was Namibia and Canada. Where here you go South Africa, Scotland. Then you go Spain, then you go South Africa, Ireland, then you go maybe Tonga, and then whoever in the quarterfinal, which will be a big game, it will be either France or New Zealand. So I think you can get bang for your buck for even in that pool stages. And the nice thing, why I thought I talk a lot, but why I think we were the Japanese followed us or were supportive of South Africa. We actually went there early. We went into 2 weeks before the other teams came. We actually went to Japan and we did a lot of PR work there. We played Japan in a warm-up game. And then we stayed in Japan and we went to schools and we PR'd there. And I think the people then actually latched onto that, you know, and they supported us, except the game that we played against them in that quarterfinal. We did the similar thing now. Last year at the end of year tour, before we went on our end of year tour, we went to France to actually promote France 2023 over there. We did a lot of PR activities, went to schools, we went to the launch where they launched their corporate suites, France 2023, we were at that event. So they utilized us and we play against them in the final, but hopefully we can get some good relationships going there.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Just one last question, if I may, and looking at the new competition versus Super Rugby topic, and I know that's a question that a lot of South African fans do have. Do you believe that the new URC competition that is played in the Northern Hemisphere gives South African players greater exposure on the style of play in the Northern Hemisphere? And as a result will also gives us South African players the ability to potentially perform better in the Rugby World Cup?
Yes, I think so. I think the URC is a phenomenal competition in terms of strategy and the coaches you play against. There's a lot of diversity in terms of playing styles that you have to coach against, playing conditions. So I think that's something that we aren't used to as South African teams. And also, if you look at their travelling support and you look at they've got a big rugby culture there in the URC. If you go to, if you play Ulster on a Friday night in Belfast, I mean, it's a sellout. I know the stadiums aren't as big as South Africa, but I mean, it's their thing, you know. Friday night in Belfast, you go and watch Ulster. If you play Munster at Coleman Park, and it's a big game, I mean, it's 25,000 people that will fill that stadium. And if you think Munster is a small county, it's literally, I think, about 25% of the whole county have to go to the game to fill the stadium. And when myself and Rassie coach at Munster, I think we filled that stadium 9 times within that season. So I think it's brilliant for us. I think our players will enjoy at the moment COVID is over and people can go to matches again. And I think hopefully South Africans will get into the thing of the supporters will get into the thing of the travelling support, because I think they will see obviously the North coming to South Africa to come and experience some time here, especially the Irish teams. They're big on travelling support. But to answer your question, yes, I think we will benefit from that. I think we've caught up. If you think what happened in the first month of URC, we adapted quickly. And again, it comes to South Africa. South Africans adapt. When challenging times faced with COVID, when we got a bad run in the first month of the URC because we're not used to the conditions, we're not used to the refereeing, we're not used to the different coaching styles we have to compete against. We just have to find a way. And if you look at the last month, I think in the last month our 4 teams have lost 1 game. So we were quite successful. So they caught on to it quickly. Yeah.
Do you think that we then lose or potentially lose some traction against Southern Hemisphere teams, New Zealand, Australia?
I think the nice thing what we have in terms currently from a national point of view. So our friend, I think it's good for us. I think it's brilliant.
I mean, the next big competition we have is Sevens rugby. I mean, you normally play with 15 players, right? As a non-rugby person, do you like the Sevens format?
Love it, yeah. So I've actually, funny enough, I've worked with the women's sevens. I can't remember. I think 2014, where they actually qualified to play in the series as a embedded team playing on the women's league. So I worked a little bit with them. I'm myself and Neil Pell, who's the coach of the sevens team. We actually get along well, and we share a lot of ideas. Although the games are different. There's a lot of, they also have to tackle, they also have to go into contact, they also have to pass the ball, they don't kick that much, which our team is actually doing and getting good rewards of it. So there's a lot of similarities in 15 mans on the fundamentals of the game. So we talk about that often, and I will join his training camps and he will join our training camps. So I enjoy the sevens, and that's coming up in September. We unfortunately will be busy with the Rugby Championship. But I just bought tickets for my whole family, and I said, listen, that can get you one day. No, they want all 3 days. So yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. I hope
But it's a sold out event. I think it's the first sold out event in South Africa since COVID hit.
Yes,
I think you still have some packages going for it. For the
listen,
2
it'll
days.
be brilliant.
Yes.
Listen, it is an amazing vibe, and the sevens is just the sevens is it's
You going
a
back?
party.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I think it is fantastic. And I mean, specifically in Cape Town. I mean, the Cape Town Stadium,
Yeah.
you can't find a better location. I'm always biased, and I still think Cape Town's the best city in the world. You're fortunate that you live there, but yeah, having the sevens there, I think it's going to be cool.
Yeah,
Really cool.
looking forward to it.
Do you have sevens twice there this year? So we got
World Cup and then the normal
Cape
seven
Town
series, yeah.
sevens,
Okay.
yes.
At the end of the year.
Yeah. But the World Cup is cool because that's, you know,
But you
that's,
won't be here either. You're going to be at the end of year tour.
No, we will be back. I think it normally, I don't know, the dates are normally the 12th of
Yeah.
December, the
Yes,
second
correct.
weekend of
The
December.
second.
So,
So you'll be back,
yeah,
yes.
we finish, I think, on the 26th, the last weekend in November. We play our last test match. So we will be back.
Ah, so we need to take some supporters overseas for the last test match in the year.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
That's the plan.
England.
England.
Yeah. big
it's
one.
again, it's a big one.
Perfect. Jacques, thank you very much for your time and sharing your
Thank you.
insights
Thanks
with
very
us. And yes, we will share this with all the fans. And,
Thank you very much, John.
Yeah, thanks
Thanks a
a lot.
lot.